like to kick off by asking, are you well actually?
Hmm. Ill. Am I well? Oh, you should actually title it like "Are you well?" with an E at the end, actually.
A little
That
bit
would be
branding,
excellent branding, wouldn't it? I don't know if it would be a bit narcissistic, but
maybe a bit.
I love play on words.
You do.
I literally like if all else fails in my life, I'll be a pundit. I've said that since I was a little girl. So yeah, are you well? Actually, could be you. Okay, maybe that's an evolution for when you become a narcissist in your midlife crisis. Am I well, actually? So this is a really interesting question because I don't think there's like one straight answer I can give you for that.
Mm.
No. Um, One, it's like what is the definition of wellness, and two, where am I at with my own definition of it?
Mm.
So right now, I feel really, really well in some aspects of my life, and then really, really shit in others.
Mhm. Mhm. I feel that.
It's both. I feel like it's never an either or, it's a both. And yeah, the whole I'm fine culture is something that I'm very conscious of, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm good, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, it's quite a loaded question actually.
It is a big one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm I'm well, and I'm also struggling in spaces.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you said your definition of wellness changes. Can you tell
Mm.
me a little bit about where it's at right now, your definition, your working definition of it?
Yes. Thank you for saying where am I at right now, because this is actually a big thing for me, is where am I right now, and can I show up as that and let it be enough?
Hmm.
So my mantra at the moment, which is something that's like right at the forefront of my mind, which is why it's on the tip of my tongue, is wellness to me is I show up however I am, wherever I am, and let that be enough.
Hmm.
And also, what that means to me is like wellness is full expression,
Mhm.
full expression of that. And it's such an edge for me because it's what I stand for, it's what I teach, it's what I facilitate. And I realize when I'm being called into what I teach, it's like, whoa, this is a big thing you're asking people to do. And
Mm.
I do it and I show up. And then there are times where I really don't want to show up as that. I don't want to show up as the truth. I don't want to show up as expressing how I actually am,
Mm.
you know? Mm.
Yeah, gosh, that's got me thinking because it's so easy to put on a front. I mean, when I'm teaching people and I try and be myself, but actually, you're right. There are those days where you just do pull the wall up a little bit,
Yeah,
maybe disguise it as professionalism or whatever else, but actually, it's probably hurting you in the long run, isn't it?
totally ill. And actually, that's really the essence. I've been journaling recently a lot on this, and you said it there. Wellness is literally just being myself,
Hmm. Love that.
you know?
Hmm.
Wellness is being myself and other people being themselves, you know? Because it's really hard to be ourselves when we're around people that are not doing that,
Mm.
you know?
And do you think that's the not the job, maybe the job's not the right word, of the teacher, of the facilitator? Because if you show up like that, then people feel that they have that permission, if you like, to show up as they are as well.
That's exactly it. And it's interesting that word you use on permission, because showing up as ourselves is the most natural thing we can actually do.
Mm.
But we've been conditioned to not do that, to mask. And I definitely played that role of the performer. And I am a performer, right? I'm a poet, I'm a musician, I'm an artist. Came to London 17 years ago to do that.
Mm.
And so I'm very well versed in that, you know.
Yeah.
But when I stepped into the role of facilitator teacher, that just wasn't going to fly, because what I teach is a practice of truth,
Mm-hmm.
to be embodied in your truth, to express your truth, to say how you feel, to be real. And how can I teach that if I'm not embodying that?
Yeah.
And it's vulnerable as fuck.
Yeah.
It is, but actually it's what I need, you know, that I'm a human being who's come to practices, knowledge, philosophies in my life that have really helped me unwind all of the shite, like all of the grind mind
Mm-hmm.
of I should be this, or who do I think I am to do that? All of these voices that tell me to be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
that really what embodiment is to be so yourself.
Yeah. And how did you what was the sort of transition from being a performer, coming to London to perform, and then starting to step into the role of facilitator? Like, what started that
Mm,
transition? And
mm.
when did that start? Was that a while ago?
Yeah. So I came to London a little young, hungry performer, singer, just aching to do my thing, which I wanted to do from I was very young.
Mm,
21, I came here. And straight into a massive expansion of my comfort zone.
mm,
I'd never had a space where my creativity was really nurtured, or my confidence. So I came down, did an audition to sing, but I actually had no self-esteem. So music uni for me was so difficult,
mm,
so difficult. So much to the point that my voice would regularly cut out on me.
mm.
I'd regularly be in pain. I would had to go and see loads of specialists. I ended up, after graduating, um, totally losing my voice and needing vocal cord surgery.
Wow.
So this was back in 2011. And I was literally mute for 3 months. We tried to heal it without surgery. And
Mm,
that was the biggest fucking initiation into spiritual practice. It's like, who the fuck are you when you cannot do what you've wanted to do for your whole life? Who are you when you can't express in the most natural way that you've done as a child? Who are you when all this hard work, I did a film and theatre degree before it, who are you when all of your performer, multidisciplinary artistry, film, poetry, music, like falls to shit and you can't speak? So I found this book called You Can Heal Your Life
yeah, I
by
have.
Louise L. Hay. It's very well known in, you know, spiritual community, inverted commas. Um, and a lot of it can seem like it's kind of toxic positivity and spiritual bypassing, affirmations and stuff like that. But what I found very interesting was all about the psychosomatics of when something presents itself in your body, there can be a thought pattern that creates that feeling somatically in our tissues, emotions, in our body.
Yeah.
And what I'd realized was I'd been suppressing a lot of anger and rage and not speaking my truth. Because I'm, growing up in patriarchy and certain conditioning, particularly being socialized as a woman, we're not allowed to speak our truth, are we?
No.
We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to rage. We're not allowed to be messy. We're not allowed to be fucking anything that's not pretty and quiet.
Hmm.
So I really started to sit with that. And I started to come back into practicing yoga, which I'd done from 16 years old. And it would be on and off because, being a student, trying to afford it,
Mm.
it's not easy.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yoga's, I don't think yoga ever really has been accessible to the mainstream financially,
Yeah.
even in a student discount.
Mm.
So I started to practice yoga again. I started going to my local gym, and I did it all without speaking. I did it
Wow.
all without speaking. So I just met all this amazing community locally to me without speaking. I would literally write in my phone,
Yeah.
right? And so the thing to me that actually really put me on a path was moving my body because I didn't have my voice, which was my form of expression, which was my way of embodying and connecting to spirit. Because singing and dancing is the way I connect to spirit. It's really simple and it's
Mm.
accessible to anyone. Put some tunes on, sing a song. Um, but what happened when I didn't have that? Started to go to the gym, met amazing community in SE London, um, where I've always lived. I'm Saf East. And then I actually found an amazing teacher. Actually, I need to give her a shout out, Letty Mitchell.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I think her Insta is Body by Letty. Yes, it
Yeah.
is Body by Letty. And she was teaching in a gym in
Yeah.
Lewisham. And it's mad because we're peers now. Um, but she got me in because she was teaching in a different way than what I had experienced before.
Yeah.
She's a dancer, she's very embodied,
She
and
is. She's
right,
amazing. She really is. I watching her practices. She's amazing. I don't know her personally, but yeah, I so know what you mean. That really embodied way of practicing.
super, super, super embodied. And she offered it to me in a very different way, grounded way. And that was just when I was starting to speak again. And yeah, Elle, what was the question? That was a really long answer.
I
Did
mean, it was no,
I
it's
answer
you're
it?
just flowing. Yeah, no, you did. I was asking you, kind of how you transitioned into the role of the facilitator in wellness from the performer.
Okay. So let's get to that. So not long after that, a couple of years, I really started to listen to a voice in my head that was like, this is not the way. This is not the way. I was in a relationship that wasn't either of our truths.
Mm,
And I was working in a bar trying to make it as a musician and I was fucking depressed. So
yeah,
even although I'd really started to heal my embodiment, practicing yoga with Letty in that different embodied somatic way, um, I'd started to really sit with and be around people that I hadn't sat with before. And I started to ask deeper questions. And I realized that I had to end my 5.5 year engagement.
okay.
We had a dog and I
Mm,
had to move. I moved away into my own space.
mm-hmm,
And then not long after that, I was like, I need to fucking go.
mm-hmm.
So I took myself to India at the encouragement of a really good friend, Sophie, and ended up doing it on my own,
Wow.
which I'd never done before. And I know it's a fucking cliche, like, white privileged, access to loads of resources. Let's go to India and fucking find myself. It is such a cliche. Um, But I really did find so much. I just got tingles in my head there.
Mm.
I really did find so much of my own self there, I'd
Mm-hmm.
always kind of relied on other people to find security or to tell me who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So went there, met the most incredible people who really showed me how much power I had within myself. I learned to ride motorbikes, and something I'd never thought I would ever do in my life. Came back and actually was in a relationship at that point as well, because this was like a few years this kind of took,
Mm-hmm.
and realized I couldn't do what I was doing anymore. I'd had all this massive awakening in India, like there's so much more to me than I am letting myself be. And I started volunteering in a yoga studio in Peckham,
Mm.
which is a great wee place, and found community, started coordinating the studio, started practicing again with incredible teachers, one of which was Erin Pritchard, who is my ride or die, bad bitch ally, amazing feminist, just really unapologetic. And they say that when you see something in someone, it's part of yourself. They're just a reflection, they're a mirror. And I
Mm.
knew that there was this powerful fucking voice in me.
Mm.
So within a couple of years, I trained with her and slowly transitioned to teaching full time and facilitating full time. And that was around 30, 31.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, that was it. I just started to find my voice in a different way that was serving something bigger than me. It wasn't me and my insecurities about, is my voice good enough, or trying to be that perfectionist of the performer. I could just share some truth that really resonated with me, and spirituality and spiritual teachings and philosophy. It really got me out of that kind of unhealthy ego and into a sense of my voice and my expression is an expression of spirit,
Mm. I
you
love
know?
that. I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah. And so you went from kind of teaching, starting off with the yoga, and now what you offer is, I mean, not that yoga has to be linear, but I would say what you offer now is there's yoga in there for sure because yoga's in everything.
exactly.
But how did you because I remember one I used to love when we were in lockdown taking your classes online, and I remember I don't know if you remember this. I was in my front room, and I had my yoga mat out, and we were doing some kind of dance thing, and I remember I just took the yoga mat off the floor and just threw it on the sofa because I was
Oh
just like,
my
I don't need this.
God.
Do you remember that? That was
Babe.
a while ago.
Oh my God, Elle, that was when I did Body of Gold.
That's the one. That's the
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Oh my God. I actually do remember you doing that, and I called you and I was like, yes, bitch.
Because yeah, that I love that because I'd been used to practicing quite a, I guess you could say like a formal asana type thing. So I really enjoyed your how and how did you come to that? That was that through that embodiment.
That's another, I mean, I'm somebody that all of this is already in me.
Mm,
I'm a firm believer that if you don't surround yourself with people who pull out your true expression, you're going to stay in expressions that you think you should be. And another instrumental teacher for me is Naomi Absalom.
yes. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Naomi Absalom, I mean, she is a fucking force.
Yes.
And yeah, she's another one of my mentors, who, we're friends now. When you've had a mentor, though, they'll always be your mentor, even if you don't work with them um all the time. They're always going to be that instrumental force in your
Totally.
life. And she very much embodies non-linear movement and raw expression. And that was something that she saw in me. And
Mm,
I'll never forget that. She said, "You're raw." And that was probably one of the biggest gifts that anyone could have ever given me as a reflection.
mm,
She helped me see myself. she showed me that that was my gift. And to be in kind of posture, to me, it felt like it was too small. There's so much place for asana and posture. Absolutely. That has been part of my journey. I would never shit on it. There's absolutely room for every expression of every embodiment modality. Absolutely. And, but for me, it, it doesn't contain, or it cannot contain my expression.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there needs to be something wilder.
Yeah.
I'm, I'm a bit more I'm a bit more untamed in the way I like to facilitate. So, of course, I'll facilitate grounding practices, whether that be rest or whether that be through stillness. But for me, it's more always been more about an exploration as opposed to an execution. It's always been more about sensation and expression. And she was definitely someone in her teaching practice and in her facilitation that pulled out stuff that I was already experimenting with. So when I found her, I was already experimenting with that stuff. And yeah, that's when and also Simon Borg Olivier. You do
Mm-hmm.
know him?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Simon Borg Olivier teaches a method called yoga synergy, spinal movement, and that really beautiful fluid way of moving with the spine. He's very much, grounded in asana as well and comes from that lineage. But it's his own interpretation of it. And I
Totally.
like that. I like that. I like when people really find their own way of expressing embodiment, because we all are that. We all have different ways of expressing. And for me, that works. That's kind of, that can hold all of me, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. That's lovely. Yeah, no, I love that description. And what are your, if you could share with us, what are your kind of non-negotiables? Maybe they're daily things you do, or maybe they're weekly things you do that keep you well according to the definition of wellness you have now. So I guess that authentic showing up as yourself. Like, can you share some little things you're working with?
Sure. So the non-negotiable that I'd be fucking mental, crazy, lost my shit if I don't do it every single day. And
Yeah.
when I don't, I notice it, is journaling.
Hmm.
Literally getting all the voices in my head down and out. Um, I call it purge to the page.
Yeah, I've heard that. Or someone else called it rage on the page.
Yeah, rage on the page. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
A purge to the page. That is a practice that really, 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 really helped me. And they speak about it in the artist way, and
Mm-hmm.
something I did on mentorships. Something I bought that book. I bought that book when I was 25 and started doing it, or actually started doing it when I got back from India, but I was way too depressed.
Mm.
Um, and that's when I slowly found myself back into yoga and community. But journaling, it's where I find clarity. It's where all my ideas come for creativity. It's where my poetry flows. It's where I really hold myself.
Hmm.
And if I don't do it kind of quite soon to waking up, I find myself very scattered and resentful because the day started to kind of have
Come in.
its way with me instead of
Yeah.
me setting my time for my day. So yeah, my page is my way to kind of find my way,
Yeah.
right.
And if someone only had, a short amount of time, is that still worth it? If they had 5 minutes even
Oh,
to
literally. Sometimes, that's all I have. Sometimes, I try to get 3 pages down, and
mm,
some days it's more. But
mm,
if you just have 5 minutes just to literally say, how am I feeling today?
mm,
Or I do another thing like, what does my soul need to say today? Because it kind
mm.
of takes you out of grind mind, which is all like to-do lists.
Yeah.
And I call it grind mind. To-do lists, what ifs, oh, I have to do this. And I
Mm,
say that it gets me into divine mind. So I'm starting to kind of hear, because it's our inner voice, it's our intuition, it's where we really hear the truth. because we can filter all that stuff down. So, don't get me wrong, I'll still have all that to do shit going, and it helps because it just gets it out
Yeah.
and it filters it down into, okay, what's my intention for the day? Or let me write something that's really, nurturing me, or, you know, why am I holding myself back in this way? I ask a lot of questions
Mm-hmm.
in my journal. So I have a dialogue with the page. And the thing is, you cannot kid yourself when it's right in your face. You
Yes.
cannot lie to yourself. You'll see the truth going, and you'll say a certain thing about yourself, or you'll say a certain thing about life, and it really confronts you with, is that true? You
Yeah.
know, it helps you
Yeah.
really discern your
Yeah.
truth. And it
Yeah.
takes discipline to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do
It
you,
takes
it's like brushing your teeth now? Is it just a day? Is it
literally,
yeah.
yeah, it's like, if I don't do that with my coffee, so there's a thing called habit stacking. I can't remember the name of the book,
Mm.
but I do it with my coffee, and it's so great because I do it outside in the garden now, which I'm so grateful for, that I have a garden again. And yeah, do it as a ritual.
Yeah.
And I see it as discipline, as devotion. That's something I teach my
Mhm.
mentees and my creative community is, yes, it's like, okay, I've got to get there and do it, but it's a devotion. It's a devotion to yourself. It's a devotion to your truth. It's a devotion to really finding out what your truth is. And that's the biggest gift we can give someone and other people, is to be true to ourselves. Because like you said before, it encourages other people to do the same.
Totally. And
Yeah,
that's how our wellness can have a ripple effect out into the world and benefit other people.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's quite an individual practice, but it's also, yeah, it's a very intimate practice. But I've got a little thing that I do. I write like body, mind, heart, art,
Mm.
work, and I segment it sometimes. So I make
Mm.
sure that I am, and then so heart is always my relationships. So I
Yeah.
nurture my relationships in my journal, and it'll make me say, oh, I need to reach out to that person and check in with how they are. Or am I coming from my heart? I always want to be coming from my heart. And so I check in with my heart, and usually that will soften whatever grind is in my mind
Mm-hmm.
to come back to that place, because the heart is always the truth.
Yeah. And do you think that's because I asked you right at the beginning, are you well? And you said in some areas, yes, in other areas, no. Is that why you know that so intimately? Because you have that little, how's my heart? How's my work or whatever the other categories you said?
Yeah, I think you might be right there, I do. And it's sometimes I don't do that, because sometimes I literally just come to the page and I'm super inspired, and like big poetry will come through.
Mm.
But segmenting it, it's so great because it's this beautiful, holistic way of checking in with yourself. How's my
Mm.
body? How's my mind? How's my heart? How's my art? How's my work? How's my people? So simple.
Yeah. And it makes it maybe for someone who's new to it, that makes it a bit more manageable, perhaps, or just helps them think about what they're really writing about.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
really, really good advice.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can get so stuck in grind and just talk about everything that's wrong in your life, or feel overwhelmed because you feel parts of your life are not being tended to.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful, powerful wellness practice to write.
Mm. Yeah, I must admit I've let that slip lately, and I notice it. The difference is really noticeable when you don't do it.
Yeah, for sure. How does that show up for you? Sorry, you're the podcast, but I'm asking you
No, I don't mind.
questions.
Um, just I think, oh, I just get less inspiration throughout the day, and I think to be honest, the main thing is being because I'm pregnant right now and I'm sleeping like shit, or at least I have been for a long time. When my alarm goes off in the morning, I must admit, I lie in bed for a good 20 minutes sometimes. And I used to spring out of bed just because that's the kind of person I am. And I do that either writing or meditation, just a little 10, 15 minutes, but that's kind of gone to an extra little lie in. And
Yeah,
and I notice it in that, like, yeah, it's just having that inspiration. But then I am also starting to find it in other times of the day. But I agree with you that the earlier in the day you can do it, the better,
yeah,
because that's before your days started to get in the way. But yeah, Yeah, I do. I've been trying to fit it in, and sometimes it's even just moving, as you said, just moving my body. It's not always writing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting because you're making me think of female health.
Mm.
And obviously you're literally growing a life inside you. So your cognitive ability is all down here in your womb space.
It does feel
No,
like that sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, and no wonder, no wonder. And it's actually making me want to share kind of where I'm not feeling well at the moment.
Hmm.
So thanks so much for sharing that. Because this is something I'm really, really, really struggling with. And even then, like I can't write when I'm on my bleed. I can't
Mm. Hmm.
can't do
Hmm.
it. So just when you were speaking there about what's going on in your womb, you know, and that's for a long period of time. So, you know, they call it like the baby brain. Maybe baby brain is because it's down there. All your processing is happening down in your womb space.
I think so. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it is kind of.
So when I'm bleeding, I'm going through a lot of pain in my cycle right now.
Mm.
And I find that, you know, I'm not sure whether someone's going to ring my doorbell right now. So I'm just letting you know that there's some that human thing might happen.
That's all right.
um, People are constantly buying from Amazon in this building, and I'm like, stop it, boycott, boycott. I fucking hate it. Yeah, I do not, I abstain. Maybe you can edit that bit out, else so they don't get any free advertising. Um, See, here's the bell. Fucking Amazon. Fuck off. Yeah, so what's happening
Never
for
heard of
me?
them. Never heard of them.
Yeah, what I love about what you shared about is so many mothers will relate to that, or mothers to be will relate to you, and that I'm sure, you know, that your wellness practices will have to change. I hope you don't mind me saying that. Your wellness
No,
practices
no,
will
it's
have to
true.
change.
It's true.
Well, your wellness practices will have to change because your body's changing and your needs are changing, and therefore rest is your wellness maybe in the morning, you know.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm-hmm.
and for me, around my bleed, it's particularly day one, day two, all my processing is in my womb. I'm also really struggling with painful cycles at the moment, which I go through periodically in my life,
Mm,
depending on what circumstances are happening, or yeah, literally what circumstances are happening and how I'm feeling in myself. And I can't write on those 2 days. I literally cannot bring my brain to the page.
yeah.
Or maybe write flashes in my phone notes of downloads, because I do get a lot of kind of downloads, but
Yeah.
I literally cannot. One, painful when I can't sit the pain, and two, I literally don't have the energy. I'm drained,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know.
I know that feeling. Yeah. And you kind of on those days, and you've got to give yourself that compassion. Yes, there's discipline to doing this writing and all of that, but actually, there's also self-kindness and self-compassion. That's also caring for your wellness.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's not linear, and we can't expect to be able to do the same things every day as women and people who bleed. We can't. We're cyclical beings,
Hmm.
and this is a huge, huge wellness practice for me at the moment, is to really remember that and honor that.
Yes.
And you know, I've rescheduled this podcast 4 times, and Elle has been so amazing. A couple of times it was to tend to my PMS and my bleed, and a couple of times it was me being in that voice of self doubt. Was like, I need to be perfect to show up as I am. I need to know what I'm talking about, and that part of myself, and something that my menstrual health I wouldn't say she's a nutritionist, and she runs a women's circle, and I've joined it again, is that it's I'm at that point in my cycle where I'm in my spring, which is pre-ovulation,
Hmm.
which relates to the younger little girl,
Mm.
the maiden,
Yes.
around 13. And that part of me I really struggled with when I was younger, you know, that I had to be this perfect image, you know. So when I'm called to do things at that time in my cycle, spring,
Mm-hmm.
um, I get that voice of self doubt. I get that
Yeah.
voice of self doubt. And yeah, so I nearly backed out of the podcast yesterday, didn't I?
You did.
And
I'm glad you didn't in the end.
oh, I'm so glad I didn't, because what I'm seeing now is how can I hold myself in my deepest wellness? It's just to really be with that little girl in me
Yeah.
that didn't feel safe to express. I had moles on my face that I was bullied for, one right in my nose, and you can still see a little one on my cheek there that actually grew back. And
Mm.
around 13, it's weird because she gave me this insight last night when I was like, oh, I nearly backed out of something. And she told me, she said, and this was incredible. Her name's Emily Hoyle, and she's
Mm.
Emily Nourish You
Okay.
on Instagram. And she said, perfection is poison for a little girl about to blossom.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that incredible? And that
Yeah.
just, even that just makes my heart like burn and swell with so much love and so much compassion for that little one within me that,
Mm.
you know, she also wasn't held in her period well as well. Because I
Yeah.
got my period, that's weird. I'm literally downloading this as I speak to you. She
Mm.
wasn't held at 13. I remember coming on a big school trip to London, had a big, like, always pad on that felt like a nappy. I was so tired. All I wanted to do was rest. And I was in this dorm with everyone. And London was great, but I really just needed to be home with my mum.
Sure. Oh my God. I remember I started on a school trip. It was hell.
Did you? Your first one? Oh my love. I actually think that mine was the first time. I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
You
I
do
really
just need to be at home with your mum.
do.
You
I
just,
do. And so at this point in my cycle, which is spring, which is just after the bleed, and it's like that part of your little girl, she wasn't held when she was bleeding, and she didn't feel safe to be herself.
yeah.
So whenever I'm called to expand, I've got a voice, I've got stuff to say.
Mm.
That's why you called me on here, and I was so excited. And there was so many shape-shifting little perfectionist things like, oh, I'm looking after my menstrual health, or I'm trying not to do too many things at once because that's my wellness practice of going slow and sustainable, which I think we all should do living in the
Mm.
fucking capitalism. Um,
Mm.
well, obviously, and that's a privilege thing. I acknowledge my privilege in that I can actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unearned privilege, of course, but it's really shown me how to hold that younger part of myself. And that's what this menstrual health, it's all the ways that I was not held or didn't feel safe to be
Mm.
myself or slow down or not be perfect, be messy, be
Mhm,
my full
mhm,
expression. That's why
mhm.
I love to teach that way, because being in certain postures, it's just almost too constraining for all the versions of myself, all the emotions, the rage, the pain, the grief, the wild, the slut, the selfish, the sexy, all that stuff that we're not allowed to be in
Yeah.
society. And so that's a huge part of my practice, is being with my body, being with my younger self through all these phases, because I'm about to come into my summer, which is the full bloom.
Mm.
It's like
Is that the ovulation? Is that
that's
what?
ovulation. That's ovulation when you're out there and
Mm.
really shining.
Mm.
And so I was in this kind of just before I'm about to bloom, where we have more confidence, when we have more estrogen in our bodies. I'm just at like, okay, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. But there's this little person in me going,
Mm.
it's not safe to be seen because you were bullied, or you were told you were too much.
Mm.
I always had a big voice and a big expression when I was younger, but I was told, I went to certain school, and I was told I was too much, I was the drama queen,
Mm.
and that stays with a little girl,
Yeah. It's so rubbish when people say that.
isn't it?
It's so rubbish. It's like, what? Yeah, I hate that shit. Maybe
What?
on that note, actually, I always like to ask if you, as my guest, is there anything out there in the wellness world, the wider wellness world, that you see and you think like this is bad news, this is gonna do more harm than good? It's
Mm.
sold as a wellness thing, that's presented as something that's good for you, but actually you suspect might be very bad.
Mm.
I just think it helps because there's a lot of stuff out there, especially for people who are newer to this world, who might think, "Oh yeah, everything I see on Instagram is great," but you know, as we know, who've been in it for a while, not everything is as real as it might seem, if you like.
Babe, you just said it. You literally just said it. Nobody is real.
Yeah.
And when I say nobody, there are people that are real. You're real, I'm real. We show up as that. It's made me think of another word, which is heal.
Mm,
You know, we're constantly told to be healing. And for me, it's absolutely valid and it has its place. You know, healing is a thing.
mm,
But when it's sold as this thing, as this problem in you that needs to be fixed, it feels like the healing world is just another mask for self-improvement, fixing yourself, being something different from what you are.
mm,
Actually, I really believe, and I am a testament to this in my own practice, messy as fuck, showing up, is that to heal, it's actually, you just need to be real. You need to just show up as you are and share where you are. And it's scary to do that
mm.
because to be authentic really, really, really um, digs into basic needs.
Yeah,
Um, Gabor Mate speaks about this, incredible Gabor Mate.
he does. He does.
Um, the two basic needs, our two basic human needs are to be safe and to be authentic.
Mm,
Right? And when we can't find safety in our authentic selves, we're constantly looking to heal or improve or change or fix ourselves. And
yeah.
I feel like wellness is going that way and it's scary. You know, people
Mm-hmm.
are advertising pain points to kind of get people to sign on to things.
Yeah.
And it's it's dangerous because all of us have stuff. All of us have stuff.
Mm,
And it's not about fixing that stuff. It's just about being able to be with it. And that is not easy. And I think that people in spaces who are holding spaces of facilitation need to be very, very mindful. When you come and hold space, whose face are you wearing?
mm. It's so interesting what you just said about pain points. I've literally heard the words in a kind of business, you know, when I've taken like a business training or something, they're like, you need to appeal to people's pain points.
Oh, I feel sick. But
And it jumped out at me as well. I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't
how
know.
there's so many amounts of wrong with that. How disgusting is that?
Yeah. Well, it's capitalizing on people's what they've, it's giving people problems that they don't have as well.
Right. Exactly. And it's like we all have insecurities. And the reason why we have insecurities is because of the system that we live in.
Yeah.
So let's help each other be with that stuff that we've been told makes us not enough.
Hmm.
To me, more than anything, the more and more and more I be with practice of embodiment, expression, spirit, is it's all about self-acceptance. And that is really hard in a world that literally gaslights people's uniqueness.
Hmm.
Another thing that really needs to happen is we need to honor difference.
Totally.
We need to honor fucking difference. How can we expect us to be in this accepting world if we do not honor difference? You know, I'm trying to create a change in a workplace right now. I facilitate well-being in a big corporate company.
Mm,
And I'm kind of half doing that and half doing mentoring and community. I'm going through a slow career transition, which I like because it makes it not overwhelming. And I've been working on a body of work for a few years that's coming out in autumn,
mm,
which I'm so excited about. But right now, I'm like, right, whilst I'm doing in this world still, I'm going to make a fucking change.
mm,
And what I want to see is men and women and people who bleed are different. We're different. We cannot expect to function in the same way. So what I want to see is unlimited paid menstrual health leave for women and people who bleed.
Mm. Mm.
So I'm actually having a meeting next week
Wow.
with the head of women's health at this fucking global company. I'm going to fuck shit
Wow.
up there in the best way.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I literally just had enough. Last week, I called them and I said, I can't come in today. They love me in person. They love me because I'm literally just this person that walks into the office and is like, right, okay, what are we fucking doing today? I
Yeah,
swear,
yeah, 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 yeah,
I swear, Rich, I'm like, I'm really sorry, don't tell the bosses, but I'm from Glasgow, what can I say? And I'm always very honest about my human experience and it's refreshing. But recently I had to just say, I cannot show up. I cannot be the facilitator of wellness that we're all conditioned to see as wellness, always being okay, always being fit and well and healthy.
Mm.
I really need to rest, and that's my wellness. And I actually had to cancel class. And then I thought, and one of the women is actually changing over. She's about to go on maternity and she's looked after me so much. This company is incredible.
Mm.
And I said, I need to make a change here. I cannot. And they have menopausal awareness there. They've got a room of like different pads and lots of different sizes of black trousers for women and
Oh,
people who bleed for menopause. And I'm
oh.
like, where's the fucking menstrual health?
Mm.
So I'm having a meeting next week about it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think gender is a big issue right now in the world of division, you
Mm.
know, and it's, I see, I just see so many people not being able to be in the body that they're in. And I'm including trans people in that
Mm.
who cannot be in the body they're in and can't and don't feel comfortable in their own skin because it's not honored, you know?
Mm-hmm.
People's different bodies are not honored,
I couldn't agree more.
you know? And there's always a scapegoat. There's always a scapegoat in society for what's wrong with society. It's
Yeah.
always a demographic of people. And I'm sick of it. We need to honor difference. And something my collective said, I need to big them up. Incredible, incredible space holder, Zoe Leadley Mead. They're Space to Reflect UK.
Space
They're
to
in Space to Reflect UK. They're incredible. They're incredible. Poet, beautiful words on embodiment and queer expression and non-binary philosophy.
Mm.
And I asked my community last week, which is actually the body of work I'm birthing again in autumn, what is the most fulfilling, enriching life worth living in society? And they said this, they said, to be interconnected in the beauty of our uniqueness.
Mm. I love that.
Isn't that just like
To be
that?
interconnected in the beauty of our uniqueness. I love that.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
And for me, that's it. It's unique expression. That is the medicine. And
Mm.
to police other people's expression or to tell people that they shouldn't feel the way they feel. And this can be for anything, anyone, anybody. That's not healing. That is not real.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I think a small step I can make in the lived experience that I'm in the body that I'm in as a woman, cis het woman, is to try and change that.
Yes.
Because I think when we honor a demographic that's been oppressed for so fucking long, it's only going to be a ripple effect for everybody else who is oppressed.
Yes.
Just let fucking women and people who bleed rest.
Yeah.
And then look at that change
Yeah.
that can ripple out to the rest,
Mhm.
because it's a system. Men are oppressed within this too.
Mhm.
And it's not about being against each other. It's about, look at this system that we live in. It's oppressing all of us.
Totally.
Men feel like they need to be the breadwinner all the time, be strong all the time, don't cry.
Mhm.
So therefore, women are not allowed to be emotional because men are not allowed to be emotional.
Mm.
So this is something that is another thing in the wellness world, is I feel like emotions are not honored. It's like, let's just be with the mind, let's calm and control. And it's no, let's just let it out. So that's what somatic work, that's why somatic work is so incredible, because you're actually working with internal experience and sensation, and actually being with emotion and letting it move through, whether you're primal screaming or having a cry, or being in pleasure and dancing. It really, really works the whole expression of a body
Mm.
that feels.
Mm.
And yeah, being real is what's going to heal us all. And really just allowing each unique individual to be who they are.
Mm.
Self-acceptance and collective acceptance.
And is that you've got, I know you have a what we call it, a workshop, an immersion coming up in June. It's in June, right?
I do. Oh, bless you. Thank you for asking
Is
me
that
that.
kind of, is this the message? Is this kind of what you're, because it's called Hold Your Own Voice.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yeah.
the date of it.
Oh, my love. Thank you so much for asking. It's June 17th,
Yes.
and it's in an incredible church. And it's for everyone. Everyone is welcome. There's lots of people already gathering, women, men, non-binary humans. And it's really about holding your own and letting yourself be known.
Mm.
And to be in a space where every expression is welcomed. That's total medicine. And what I teach as a medicine for perfection is raw expression. So
Love that.
literally sharing exactly where you're at, how you feel, being real. And that's actually what is healing. There's
Mm.
nothing that you need to do other than to be who you are in this moment,
Mm.
and letting it be enough. And it's vulnerable because we live in a world where it's not safe for that to happen.
Yes.
So I'm creating a space of safety where we can be true to ourselves and we really tend to those basic needs, basic human needs.
Love that.
So yeah, I'm so excited for that. It's inspired by Kay Tempest, who I met
Mm.
recently, and they
A
wrote in my book
writer.
"Hold Your Own." Yeah, Kay Tempest.
Yeah.
Like, so they wrote a song. They wrote a song called "Hold Your Own," and I
Yeah.
wrote a response to it years ago called "I Am My Own." And then I went to see them recently. I actually went with Zoe, who I was just speaking about there, and I met Kay and I told them how much they've influenced, and really, what they really showed me, and what I've really been nurturing myself as well, is perfection, and performance is not what we need. We need connection and raw
Yes.
expression. And I told Kay that, and they wrote in their book, Francesca, Hold Your Own. I was like, that is such a blessing, such a blessing. And actually, it's in Brockley, it's in St. John's Church in Brockley, where Kay grew up. So it's just like a
Oh,
full circle moment.
beautiful.
And I really, really want as many people to be there that are just open to this and to receive this, because I've written a poem for it, Elle, and it's fucking like makes me cry when I read it.
Oh,
Makes me cry and it makes me feel high at the same time.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's going to be 3.5 hours of absolute medicine expression. It's my first one since the pandemic. So I think all this kind of perfectionism is coming up because I'm only coming back out into the world. I've been behind the scenes nurturing a huge body of work that is literally my heart and soul, with a small community of people, and we live it, we breathe it, and part of Hold Your Own Voice is a flavor of it.
Mm.
Loads of them are going to be there, and you'll just meet my people. And really, it is, you cannot hold your own without being held by others, and you cannot be yourself without being around others where it's safe to be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Community is the healing, and
Yeah.
true community is the healing. I wrote today, um, perfection is a false form of protection. Community, what did I say? Perfection is a false form of protection. Community and being myself around them is my truest medicine.
Mm.
Something like that, paraphrasing myself.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing all of that, Francesca. That was just beautiful. I feel so inspired.
Oh, thank you
Your
so much, Ella. And thank you so much for letting me be a messy human. Not only
hey,
not
this
only with my menstrual health stuff and really, honoring my woman, but also just letting me be messy in the perfectionist, which can really sabotage me. I think you do incredible work.
mm,
I was honored to be asked, and
mm,
not in a space of ego. Like, I really vibe with you, you're my
yeah.
person, and I love how you keep it real. And just thank you for supporting me and asking about my work, and yeah, giving me a platform to speak and share. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.